Hello and welcome to the RetroMacCast with James and John, where in each episode we'll stroll down the Macintosh memory lane. We'll discuss older Macintosh computers, collecting all things related to the Mac and Apple computer, and current topics from the perspective that only a couple of old Mac fans can provide.
And here we are.
Yes, indeed.
Back-to-back weeks. How you doing, John?
I'm doing well. Doing very well.
All right. Well, we're back again. We've got a few people in the chat room. We've got a couple of people in the green room, the virtual.
That's right.
Room.
Yeah. Enjoying the lavish spread that we put in there, the charcuterie board.
That's right.
Cold beverages.
Right. Only green M&Ms.
The best. That's right. Yes, right. Yes.
Per the writer. I don't think we announced that we would have guests this week.
No, we did not. No, I was going to do the Mac recorder.
That's right.
So this was a surprise.
Did you wind up messing around with it?
I did. Yeah. I've got
okay.
it hooked up to the Mac Plus behind me. So we'll do that next week.
Next week it is. Yep.
Yeah.
I stumbled upon, I guess it was over in the Facebook Vintage Mac group, the Mini SE project. And so waiting in the wings are Jason and Ron, who put that together. So we've got them. But we don't want to keep them waiting forever. So let's do this episode for real. Let's go.
Sounds good.
In 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the RetroMacCast with James and John. This is episode 693 for October 14th, 2024. Good evening, John.
Good evening, James.
The Mac recorder demonstration experimentation gets delayed yet again,
but for a very
reason.
Fun reason.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's this Mini SE project that there are photos posted over on a Facebook group. Vintage, is it Vintage Macintosh something or other? I never remember the title. And we've got Jason and Ron, the creators of this, standing by to join us in a couple of segments. So that'll be fun. Always fun when we have guests on the show.
Absolutely.
And we've got eBay finds. We've got some news. What else do we have to tease?
I think that's it. Yeah.
All right.
Let's get to it.
All right. Let's take a quick minute and we'll be back with eBay finds. All right.
Wow. Garth, Apples, Trina, Steve.
Let's see. Here we go. And let's do it in eBay finds in 3, 2, 1. Time now for eBay finds. Last week, we had that 5-year anniversary award. The one that befuddled John, David, and I. We eventually figured it out, though.
Yes.
They want $350 for this little plaque. It's very high quality, very nice. Of course, it's personalized to some unknown person. So there's that. They wanted to buy it now for $350. It's still available, but there is a make an offer option on this. And then the poster titled "The Journey Never Ends," featuring an Apple IIe, which would, I guess, is the Platinum, right?
Yes. Platinum
a
2E.
2GS.
Right.
And an LC something or other.
Brand of, one sort or another. Yeah, it's an awesome poster.
One, yeah, it's got a lot of miscellaneous, looks to be like educational items. This poster, they wanted to buy it now for $199.99. There is no make an offer, so it's still available. And then this is the one that David brought with him, the Apple Lisa 2/10, so 2 megs, 10 or 2, 2 megs of RAM. Buy it now, $4,999, or you can make an offer. So that one's still available. Okay, we will begin with Just a simple item. Bumper stickers. People still use bumper stickers. Still see them occasionally.
Sure. Yeah.
This one is an official Apple bumper sticker. I don't know how these were distributed, if they were just handed out at stores, or I don't remember these being sold. But this one says, "I'd rather be driving a Macintosh," which I believe coincides with the whole
Right. The 1984 the test drive of Macintosh, do you think? Do you think it was
probably. I think that's the same sort of metaphor there, where you could take home a Mac and test drive it, and there's a whole ad campaign for that. Maybe they gave you this bumper sticker too. So these are kind of rare to come by, and this one looks to be in good shape. It's got the 6-color Apple logo. Just a very nice. It'd be great to just throw that on your car today, right?
Absolutely.
And they want $29.95. Oh, that's the bid. Or you can buy it
That's
for
the bid.
$38.94. Yeah. Take a look at the pictures here. Yeah. These were pretty high quality, like a vinyl, pretty heavy duty.
Yeah.
If you did use it, it would probably last for a while. But I think it'd be better if you put like a small frame on this, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So just something, make a display, especially if you had like several other kind of maybe stickers, do a shadow box sort of thing.
I have a small collection of Apple bumper stickers somewhere we could talk about sometime, including this one. Okay, next
we have the Molar Mac, the Power Macintosh G3 Molar Mac, 266 megahertz. This one has 32 meg of RAM and a bad hard drive. Go figure. If I remember correctly, these were an unusual beast that they had SCSI and IDE in them. I believe the zip drive was SCSI and the hard drive and CD-ROM or IDE. Somebody will probably remember correctly if I'm wrong. These were, I had one of these. I got it to give it to Joe in exchange for some SC30 repair. And very glad it went to him. Because these are all starting to have some sort of video issues, including this one. They mentioned that the screen is dim. I was looking at some of the other auctions, and almost all of them seem to be having some sort of video problem. This one doesn't look too bad. It's just the image is a little dim. So right now it's buy it now. I'm sorry. It's buy it now or best offer. $1,399.99. Yikes. Especially since these things are 70 pounds and they're saying that the shipping is only going to be $62. All right, so this is definitely running into the bad plastic era.
Right.
I would not trust this thing in the mail. I would not trust this thing at all. The monitor it's a 15-inch tube monitor. This is not going to make the trip. Let's just face it. So if you are going to get this one, this is coming out of Chesterfield, Missouri, and I would say definitely go do a pickup. Some of the other price ranges that I see these going for is around $600, $800. They all, again, like I said, seem to be having some sort of monitor issue. So, and looks like the plastics on the top of this are really yellowed. I've never seen one this yellowed.
Yeah, just like on one portion of it, probably got exposed to the sun there. Yeah.
Ooh,
of course,
yikes.
These were
that's
some of the interesting Macs that were produced through this transitional period. We had translucent plastics along with beige.
There's the cool thing I loved about this one was you had the clear top, but then you also had a clear apple on the side. I don't know if there's a good picture in here of it. But that was also another issue is when these were for sale at during the school there were quite a few of these back in the day when they had the school surplus sales in this area, because these were an educational thing. These were unlike the EMAC, which eventually became available to the general public. These were only ever educational, and a lot of times that nice, cool, clear Apple logo on the side would be pushed in and rattling around somewhere between the metal chassis and the plastic outer part. Yeah. But again, fun. So basically, these had the same logic board as the beige G3, the desktop model. A great bridge system, and it had, like I said, it had everything. Since it had the CD-ROM, it had the zip drive, optional, and a floppy. So really good. And you can put OS 10 on them if you used Xpost Factor. So
awesome. All right.
Yeah.
Well, maybe this isn't the one to get, but you can hunt around. Okay. Next, I think we talked about one of these most recently. There was a sealed one that was auctioned off at that recent RR auction event. This one is not sealed. This is an Apple IIe card for Macintosh, but it's open and it's got some fierce bidding here with still 5 days to go. So the card, let's look at the picture. So you got the cardboard box, looks in pretty good shape. All right. And then inside you got the manual and like the various little cards. It's got the all-important Y cable. Why? Because you need it to use this thing.
Yeah.
The card, the installation discs, and looking at everything looks in pretty good shape. Even wrapped in the original plastics, and very nice. Let's see, do they say anything about it being used recently? Does not.
I can tell you that there are 2 surface mount caps on these things that need replacing. Pretty much guaranteed at this point. So
right. Well, after 5 bids, again with 5 days still to go, this is up to $257.77. So
they're very sought after.
Yeah, nice item. And so you think you'd want to replace those capacitors even before you
there's just 2. It's not bad. And I believe Console 5, if you're not good at Mouser or any of the other places trying to figure out what the heck you're buying, like me, Console 5 sells the 2 capacitors as a kit.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we got some predictions that this will get up to about $500. Probably. We'll find out next week. Okay.
Garth brought up a good point is, look for LC2 or LC systems and see if, if they show the back and show the cards, because those were used a lot in schools, and that's where these 2E cards were used. So.
All right, let's introduce our guests and bring them in. Let's go in 3, 2, 1. Okay, well, the main event here, we're going to bring in Jason and Ron. There they are. Hello. How y'all doing? Thanks for coming on the show.
I didn't get the memo that it was a fancy dress party, but Gut Bomb is absolutely a trendsetter, so I do not question it.
I think my mustache is about to fall off.
Yeah, make everybody big on screen here so we can take everything.
There we go.
Take it all in the costume. Can you lean back a little bit so we can see your shirt again? Nice.
Beautiful.
Nice.
Sit happens. Yes.
Sit. Is that for sale somewhere? You said you got that from Steve Mac 84.
Yeah, it's on Mac 84's merch store.
Got it. All right. We're hawking stuff.
He's got a bunch of funny ones out there.
All right. Let me put the we'll put the website back up here over at printables.com. We're looking at the SE Mini desktop case for Macintosh SC or SE30. All right, who wants to tell us how this all came together?
Ron, you start, and I'll continue.
Okay, I was going to say, because this started, if you guys remember back, there was a series of books that came out that were called like Build Your Own Macintosh and Save a Bundle. And there was a couple of revisions of that book that came out over the years. And I just remember as a youth going to Walden Books and when there were bookstores. And I picked up a copy of it because I was so excited. I was like, oh my gosh, like just the idea that you could build your own machine and all that. And so I got the book and I opened it up and it's basically like step 1, get yourself a Macintosh motherboard. And I'm like, womp, womp. I'm like, how do I do that? And so the dream died right then. But it was really neat because the book itself actually had like just a ton of like resources, and it was, if you remember what Computer Shopper used to be like, where it's like a thick catalog of like all of these like great parts and things like that. Well, those books vetted like what cases, what monitors, video, TTL video converter solutions, things like that. How to save and squeeze every penny out of your little project. And I just loved poring over that stuff because that's the type of kind of kid that I was. And so many years later, when I got back into the hobby, I was like, wouldn't it be great to build one of those machines? And you talk to people. Like I mentioned it to Sark, and I was telling him about it. He goes, oh yeah, I built one of those back in the day. I had like an old 286 case, and I wired up a little breadboard or perf board, power supply converter and stuff. And yeah, it was neat, but it's in the back of the closet somewhere. And I was like, yeah, I said, I really want to build one of those. And I started looking around for the parts and I couldn't find anything. So what I eventually did is I picked up a copy of Larry Pina made a great book for troubleshooting and repairing old Macs that has like a circuit diagram in there for the TTL adapter to take the video off of like a Mac Plus or a 128 or a 512 or an SE, a classic board, and convert that into something that then you could scale to a modern display, or at least when these books were written, which a modern display would be like a 12-inch Paperwhite, CRT. So I played around with it for a very long time, and I made a few boards and stuff to kind of bridge the gap so you could use a device like the RGB to HDMI to scale that video up for like a modern HDMI display. And then I was like, I've got all these boards and I've got all the stuff that you could not find anymore, or you could pick it up on eBay and it was just astronomically priced. I need a case. And I started looking around, and all of these 286 cases, all of these, old, machines are gone, or people are hoarding those because it's like, no, it's a 286, and this was the machine that my uncle had at his shop when I was a kid, and I could never get rid of it. And so I'm like, I'm just out of luck. And Micromac, who made like a whole series of accelerators for these old machines, actually made a series of little metal cases and things like that. Those are equally impossible to find. So even if you wanted to get something that was more of an engineered solution, it just wasn't possible either. Well, these Cat Macs, because you think it's like you're going to the catalog to build your Mac, these Cat Macs has always been a fascination of mine. I always wanted to get this going. And so I worked with Jason on a project, or Gut Bomb, last year to adapt some of my little video boards so that way you had like an actual panel for the back of the SE case. And I was like, what do you think about this idea? And then it kind of grew from there. And Jason, do you want to take it?
Yeah, it grew quickly too, because he gave me the idea, and like about an hour later I had some basic CAD stuff up on my screen, and I knew from the start that I wanted to make a miniature 2 SI shape, basically. And like just from the start, I knew, okay, the board's going to go on the left. We're going to put these little, I'm going to make some space on the right for us to stick our video output and speaker, and stack the floppy and the Blue SCSI, because Blue SCSI was in there from the very beginning too. Make a tray for those that goes right on the top. So like it took me maybe 15 minutes to come up with what you see there. And then it took many, many hours of CAD bringing it out of my brain, and then many hours of printing to bring it into a physical object in the world. And lots of iterations in printing too, because the first thing I actually modeled was the SE motherboard, because I had to start from scratch, because there's no KiCad models of that out there. So I built a model of the board, and then I built the case around the board.
Nice. Interesting way to have to go about it. Wow.
And as we work together, I'm sorry, I was going to say, just as we work together on things, Gutbaum was like, why did you design this like this? Like, wouldn't this make more sense? Like, change the board and shrink this and do this. And I was like, yeah, no, these are great ideas. and so we worked together to try to make this sort of as small as possible and thin as possible. So that way that, if you've got like an extra board laying around, you can 3D print the case, prints in quadrants. You can use the boards, so that way that you've got a modern power supply replacement. You've got a modern video scaler replacement that's not going to break the bank, and it's all just as small and tight as possible in there. Probably a great solution for somebody that's like, hey, I just want to have like an extra little Mac sitting around. That's, if you base it around the SE, I mean, that'll run like System 2, like all the way up to 7.5. So you've got like a machine that can run like a huge breadth of software on the platform. And if you're like a streamer, or you're somebody that's like, I want to play these games online and I want to show other people and I want to do it on real hardware, that was a lot of the inspiration too.
Yep, and having the video output integrated in there was important from the start too, because we don't want to have a bunch of dongles hanging out of the back and stuff like that. But another priority with this thing was to make it easily printable for people who have regular printers. And as you can see, it's a little bit too big to print on a regular 3D printer. So we chopped the top, the bottom. We chopped the top and the bottom into 4 pieces, as you can see there. And then the drive trays that the drives sit on, those are, you got one for each side. And then the back panel is also 2 panels, and those just slide out. And another thing that was important was we built this around the SE, because the SE is kind of the sweet spot for this type of computer. And that's what I think both Ron and I have the most nostalgia for, is the slow monochrome compact Macs.
Well, also, the SE is going to be a lot easier to find an SE board than an SE30 board, right?
Yeah. Yep. Plus, so we built it around the SE, but of course the SE30 is the same shape. And the SE30 does fit in here, but to have the drive trays in there as well as the SE30, the drive trays are going to need some modification. And that's where the community can come in, because not only is this like a thing that we designed and people can download, but like it's fully open source. I made this in Onshape, and I link the file. I link the Onshape project, and people can just fork that project and build their own. And it's not like just downloading the STLs and doing a remix. They have my source files for like the actual sketches that were used to design the model. So that makes it a bit easier.
Yeah.
For the community to provide mods.
Just so people out there who've got 3D printers, what's your build area? What's your what is that, 256, or is it
yeah, most standard printers are somewhere between like 230 and 250, or 220 and 250, and each one of these pieces will easily fit on there with the way that we chopped it up. Now, if you do have a bigger printer, because this thing's about 300 by 275, if you do have a larger printer, we make a version of the top and the bottom that are just combined, so you don't have to print them in quadrants if you have a large printer.
Well, it turned out
nice.
Awesome. It looks it looks like it's some lost prototype that was
that's what I
discussed.
was going for.
Like,
Did you were you able to find particular that filament looks really good? Was that the filament, or did you paint it afterwards?
That is Color Fab brand filament, and Color Fab is in Europe, and it is the filament RAL 7044. And there's a Tinker Different thread all about this filament. It's a perfect match for Apple Platinum.
It looks amazing. It's really
very
does.
expensive, unfortunately. And I think it's been made even harder to order now. But Color Fab, since they're based in Europe, you would have to order from Europe. And the filament itself, they sell you a spool of 750 grams for about 50 euros, and then there was shipping on top of that, so it would end up being about $80 for a spool. But then they implemented a US office for Color Fab, so a lot of Color Fab filament is now available in the US cheaper. However, this filament is not available from them, and you can't order it like custom either. So you have to actually call Color Fab US office and say, hey, can you order some spools of that from Europe and then sell them to me?
Wow. Well, I know there's I mean, I've got a couple of beige ones that are fairly close enough that you can just do a light spray paint of a different color over it, and it doesn't take much to change the look. So I know there's other options out there without having to get too crazy price.
There's one called Polyterra Muted White, and that's available on Amazon for $20 a spool. That's a pretty close match.
Gutbomb, show your custom printed one.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I went,
but that's the thing. That's the thing, John. Because
I went for an ultra realistic color myself.
Yes.
Mine's not screwed together right now. It's not rickety. I just don't have the screws in.
Nice.
So
yeah,
don't let the idea that you've got to print it in like Mac colors. I mean, what did Apple do? They turned the industry on top of their head with like all those candy colored iMacs. So the sky's the limit on options for how people want to do it. And I think that's the most exciting part, is that since it's a community project, the files are out there for people to not only be able to just print their own for free, they can modify it, change it, make it do all kinds of things that we haven't even thought about, print it in a million different colors. I'm excited to see what people come up with.
Fantastic.
And
I'm going to go ahead. We're posting the link here in the chat.
Thank you. I've also started expanding it already. So we released this to the public a couple days ago. Just last night, I modeled up a slug for test fitting a classic board in this, because there's plenty of the classic reloaded board is available, and it's theoretical that you could like build your own classic board from the ground up. Same with the SE. The SE reloaded is available, and SE30.
If you start talking like a classic board, you could almost make a handheld at that point.
Just tape it to the back of your Stream Deck, and you're all
set. That's it. You're good to go.
But the hope is eventually to have mounting options for all of the compact Macs that were available at the time to be able to fit in here.
Garth.
And the back pieces, the fact that they slide out means that basically the back panel changes because of just port arrangement. But you can have the screw holes for all of the different Mac types just on the base bottom piece. So the only different piece that you would need to print out would be the back panels that you slide out. And like you've got a classic back panel, you have a SE back panel, stuff like that.
I do like that you actually went and embedded the icons for the different ports into the plastic, just like the old original Mac would have been.
I couldn't find SVG files for those, so I just recreated them from scratch.
Nice.
And it's really cool. Gutbomb did an amazing job because the back of that machine, everything's flush. So the board sits exactly flush with the the cover on the back. So if you
That's
have
great.
devices, like you got like something weird that you want to plug in, like it's probably a good example would be like the those Logitech hand scanners and stuff. They've got like a really huge oversized SCSI connector. It's nice to be able to you can plug it right in. There's not like anything that's like sitting in the way or any kind of spacing issues. It's just like looking at the back of an SE.
Yep.
So
all the
can we-
walls
can
on
we-
this thing
go ahead.
are 2 millimeter, or all the walls on this thing are 3 millimeters thick, except for the back panel, which I made 2 because the back of the SE is 2 millimeters. And then I made the holes the exact same shape as they were on the SE, just to make sure any of those peripherals would fit exactly the same as they did on the real thing.
So can we talk about so on the inside you're using the original floppy drive. You're using the you can use the original hard drive, or you can go with blue SCSI. You've got the SE board. So let's talk about some of the newer components that are in there. Obviously, you've got something providing power that's not a giant analog board. So what have you got providing power? And then we can talk about the scaler that you've got in there for the video, right?
Yeah, this is where Ron comes in, because he big brained the hell out of this.
Give me 1 second. I'm just grabbing the last little bits here.
I was gonna.
All right. So the if you make me big, I can show you.
All right, I'll make it big.
There's a couple of different.
There we go.
There's a couple of different things. The case is actually set up where you can go with either option. But in the old days, you really needed to use something like the RGB to HDMI, which is just a Raspberry Pi 0 that uses a custom CPLD, or it's kind of into life right now. It's kind of tough to get these things, but this combo board basically gives you a way to connect a modern ATX power supply, use like a Pico ATX, and then it has basically a chip here that just inverts your colors and makes everything ready to go. You can plug in the J12 cable that came with your Mac originally, and basically just splits it out, connects it to the RGB to HDMI. You get HDMI out, and there you go. So I made this little board that basically just replaces the analog board, replaces the power supply in your old SE. So, but it also works with like Plus and Classic and 128 and 512 and all that type of stuff. So if you wanted that, but again, like I was saying, the RGB to HDMI is kind of getting to be end of life, and let's also be honest, it's kind of overkill for a project like this, because if you've priced one out, RGB to HDMI is like $70 for the board with whatever cable you're going to use to connect to whatever your video output or your video input source is, and then you still got to buy a Pi 0. So by the time you're done, it's like $100, and that seems like a lot of money to me. So what I did is I made this little board, and what this little board is, it makes use of a open source project that uses a Pi Pico for the scaler. So basically, you still have a way to connect a modern ATX power supply. You've got a way to provide power to your Macintosh SE motherboard and get your video signal off of it. Uses the Pi as a scaler, and then basically it just outputs to here. I'll switch to the machine. It basically just outputs using a little VGA extension. You see that little ribbon cable? It's popping out the back of the case, plugs into a VGA display, and that's it. So everything in a tight little box.
So if you wanted to go from VGA to HDMI, then you would just use your standard adapter at that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and those are so dirt cheap these days. I just kind of, my goal was, I really wanted to do something where the output with VGA opens up the whole world of CRT displays.
Well, also, I mean, getting even nowadays, getting an old like Dell 4:3 aspect ratio monitor off of eBay is they're cheap, and you can get I mean, the picture you showed there, I mean, it just looks fantastic.
Thrift stores are a good source of those too. They're just full of those.
So you can see that there's the little basically it's a ribbon cable with an adapter on the end of it that gives you a VGA connection. When
it scales up, is it scaling up to 1024 by 768?
It'll scale it up 1280 by 1024.
Wow.
So that way that 4x3, kind of you think like a 17-inch and 19-inch LCD, something like that. I mean,
nice.
But I mean, your display will display. I mean, I'm sure if you found a 9-inch Sanyo CRT from a million years ago, you might have some issues trying to plug that in. But any modern LCD that has VGA inputs, you're fine.
Great. Fantastic.
It looks great on the CRT too. I love using it on that thing.
Nice.
Yeah. I also, just in case people are like, well, I'm kind of worried and I don't want to I'm not ready to get rid of my SE yet. I also made a couple of other adapters to kind of address those things, where it is a pass-through connection that basically just sits on top of your motherboard, passes through that J12 cable back up to the analog board, and just extracts the video signals. And then you can use, I have another little version of the board. It's the same basic thing. It's got a Pi, but this one just has VGA output. So that way that you can, if you wanted to put just route that to the back of your case with a VGA connection so it mirrors, or if you wanted to put an LCD or something like that, but if you're doing like what they call like a sleeper build kind of on a PC, you could use something like this. That's out there in Joe's store too.
And to go back to what Ron mentioned at the very beginning, was that first project that Ron and I worked on was a little expansion bracket for the back of the SE and SE30. That little board Ron just showed can bolt right up to that expansion bracket. So you just have a VGA port hanging off the back of flush on the back of your SE or SE30 for an external monitor or video capture.
So are the pinouts the same for that cable for the Mac Plus, or would it be a different one for the Mac Plus?
Well, this here, these connection, like this one right here, is specific to the SE, but I have another version that's in the store that's for the Classic, because they are pinned different. So you'd have to make sure you get a Classic 2, SE, SE30, and then I've got another one that I'll have in Joe's store soonish. That'll be for the 128 512 Plus, because those have a longer single line of pin Molex connection.
Right.
That I'll have something to do that too. But if you're in the ecosystem with those type of things, it's basically, I've got an IDC 10 connection that plugs into all that. But you know what? If you don't want to do that, that's fine. You can tap directly off of your the interface cable that plugs in the motherboard, or you can tap it off of the analog board. And basically, there's just some screw terminals right here. Everything's labeled on the back of the board. There's your video signal, horizontal sync, ground, vertical sync. Yeah, you just screw it right in there, and away you go. 5 volts to the Pi, and that's it.
Nice.
So you can scale, and it's probably good too for people that want to troubleshoot. Like, this is probably a good thing for people that are like, I got a bunch of boards, I don't know what's good or not. I don't want to plug a bunch of analog boards. I don't want to mess with all that. If you're somebody that's worried about those things, you could use this to troubleshoot that stuff, or do a replacement. I'm not your dad.
I've been using the I've been using the ATX combo board with the video out, the one that goes in the case. I've been using that as a bench analog board for doing an SE30 repair this week. And it's great not having the whole case there for troubleshooting. I can just look at the LCD that I have on my wall instead. And it takes up no space on my desk. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
So those video adapters are over at jcm-1.com.
Yep.
And the files for the case are over at printables.com. Definitely check those both those places out. Joe's Computer Museum, he's got a lot of fun stuff that he sells over there. Awesome. I still need to get the I Know What I Got boxer shorts. So
all right. Well, thanks guys for joining us. And
thank you very much.
I'm
thanks for having us on.
Go find my motherboards I've got laying around.
And that's the thing. Everybody seems to have one of these
Sure.
boards for like a compact Mac laying around and with no good project to do. So hopefully the case inspires people to do stuff. Some reasonably priced video scaler inspires people to do some things. And please, if you print the case, because we did release this the other day, and a few people out there kind of in Facebook land picked up the model, printed it out, have started to post pictures. Please post pictures. Please tag Gut Bomb in it. Tag me in it. We want to see. We want to see what neat stuff people are doing.
I saw somebody printed one in a tan color because it matches the rest of his yellowed Macs.
Don't tell Javier that. That'll make him sad.
All right, guys.
Thanks for having us on.
We can get you loose if you want. You can stick around. We're just gonna do news and then close out the show.
Sure.
You want to stick around, or you got places to be?
No,
stick around.
We're great.
All right. Okay. Well then.
All right.
Let's switch to some news here in 3, 2, 1. Time now for the news. A quick update on that Twiggy-based prototype Mac that we talked about last week. It's over at bottoms.com, and the starting bid is $65,000. I don't know that we knew that last week, did we, John? I don't remember.
We did not. No, they didn't have it.
I don't know that.
Yep.
This closes in 8 days. And we'll continue to monitor it. And then,
John, were you going to be able to make good on that non-secured loan that you'd promised?
I'm still trying to find a buyer for my kidney.
Okay.
So we're working on it.
What does a kidney go for these days? Yeah, is it worth a Twiggy Macintosh? I don't know. Teaching an old Mac new tricks by Hunter Irving. Did I know John watched it right before we started? So did Jason or Ron? Did you guys see this video?
Yeah, there's some neat stuff in there.
Yeah,
I did, and I spent about an hour before this setting it up. So I don't quite have it working yet, but that's why my SE30 is right here on the desk.
Oh wow,
nice.
Well, I'll play just the beginning of it here.
So I'm at the thrift store. They've got VHS tapes, Happy Meal.
Anyway, this is just a taste there, but you got to watch this video. Hunter does an amazing job. I love, first of all, the production values. It's just entertaining to watch. But he goes on a quest. Well, he finds a Mac Plus, and he winds up doing all kinds of amazing things with it, which center around getting it on the internet. And within that, there's all kinds of little smaller projects. What is he going to serve? How is he going to get web pages onto the back? And it goes kind of on and on and on. And I found it fascinating. Hats off to Hunter. So Jason, you said you were working on some of that.
Yeah. Some of the stuff that he talks about in there is a new fork of Mac Proxy, which is like a way that you can get modern web pages proxied through like your modern machine, and then they render in a way that these older computers can read. Like it'll dither the images down, strip out a lot of the CSS and JavaScript so they work properly. And Mac Proxy already existed, but Hunter developed some extensions for Mac Proxy that allow finer control over how these specific sites get refined. Like Wikipedia is much easier to use with this, and some other stuff. Andy,
the AI like ChatGPT.
Oh, the ChatGPT,
that was something else. Which is funny because especially that ChatGPT. I mean, it lends itself to like just a simple text interface, and so it just looks so at home on a classic Mac. But yeah, great video teaching an old Mac new tricks, Hunter Irving. And then one more thing, I didn't know Macintosh user groups, like physical ones where you went and talked about Macs, like they're still around apparently. The Kankakee area Macintosh users group is holding their 40th anniversary party. Like they've been around that long. This is in Illinois, south of Chicago. I don't remember the last time I've heard of just in-person Mac users groups.
Well,
Do you
there
guys
was the
have them?
one. There was the one in the area here until I think COVID kind of finally shut it down. Do you remember? Because you went and talked at it a few times.
There it was, but it wasn't like this long-standing thing. I mean, it had come up in
No.
recent years as more of seniors learning how to use iPads and Macs and whatever. But this idea of a user group that goes back 40 years, back to the beginnings of the Mac, is just incredible. Anyway, I thought that was just quite remarkable. You got to wonder if there's anybody that's still there, like from the beginning, right?
Yeah.
Have all that history there. But that's great because you kind of miss that. And I miss the one that we had, even though it wasn't 40 years old. John and I used to show up occasionally. And
as the youngest people there.
I used to go to the Apple II user get-togethers and things like that, kind of in my town. And it was a lot of older guys that are like diehard people that were like, there's no Apple II's newer than the 2E. It's that 2GS is for heretics. And it's like, okay,
that's funny.
all right, that's
I went to an Apple II users group. This is probably in 1983 or something like that. With my dad took me, and it was like the most exciting thing ever. And all I can remember is just we bought a cheap external floppy drive there.
So when I was stationed in Germany, this was back in like right around 1990, and there was still over there at Capone Air Station, which was next to Ramstein. There was a very nice, vibrant Mac users group and an Apple II users group. There were two fantastic, just lots of great information. It was, and I guess probably because it was overseas, getting access to stuff was even harder. So having a users group made even more sense overseas than here in the States, I think. But I do miss that. That was a fun, and it was a good age group back then. So
plus, John, since that was during the Second World War, that was very forward thinking. They even knew that Macs were a thing.
That's right. Yes.
Well, you have another comment?
I was going to say, I'm sorry, but I got to go.
Oh, okay. Well,
thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for joining us. We'll see you around.
Cool. See you later.
Bye. I was just going to say, as great as the internet is, the internet killed a lot of things, and that was, this is an example, in-person users groups. Well, congratulations to the Kankakee Area Macintosh group on 40 years.
Yeah, it was on Monday. I was like, oh my gosh, like how far away is this? Could I make could I make it? And it's like, oh no, it was today.
All right, we'll close the episode out, and let's do it in 3, 2, 1. That wraps up another episode of the RetroMacCast. Our thanks to Ron from Ron's Computer Videos and Gut Bomb, Jason, for sharing with us their glorious project, which I think, I mean, just the idea of you guys doing this, I think like it's just going to spawn like all kinds of creative projects, right? John and I were talking, I don't know if it was last week or whatever, maybe during the week, about, remember all the fake prototypes that what was the name of the person that used
Dana Sabara.
Dana Sabara. Right. You could just anything you can imagine, you can start printing and then make it functional, just so
I want some of those L-shaped CRTs. Once we figure out how to do that, we'll have really cracked it.
All right. Well, we will be back next week. I think this time we're going to go with the Mac Recorder.
Sure.
And I think it'll be ready to go. So until next week, remember, it's not old.
It's retro.
All right. Well,
all right.
Speaking of users group, coincidentally, you queued it up right, John. I got a couple of bonus pictures to share from John and me at a user group. Let's see here. This was in 2009. And This is local here to Florida. So,
Oh my
you know,
gosh.
we had already been doing the
Yeah.
podcast for a few years at this point, but we would show up, teach these little short classes. But they had that. I think it was just the first year we went there. They had like an expo hall or whatever.
Yeah.
And so we
Yeah.
set
Well,
up
it
a
was in the
table.
old K building on the local college campus.
Yeah.
Yeah, that building's not even there anymore, really.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
They
yeah.
don't
So
really
this
tore it down?
they
That's
did
Justin
they did
Long
a
is way shorter in real life. It looks like, wow, that's crazy.
yeah, they did they would do these little computer expos, and it would there would be everything, every kind of computer, and they'd teach, they'd have little classes and stuff like that. And, yeah, I remember going to that a few times. That was back when my beard was mostly dark with a little gray as opposed to what it is now. So
We've got our vinyl 6-color Apple logo banner up there. Let's see, what do we got? A portable, an old power book. Looks like an iBook, and
You had like an SE or SE30 down there at the other end.
yeah, even with the original carrying bag there.
Yeah.
And there's John impressing everybody with his knowledge of the Macintosh, talking about the Macintosh resurgence, credited to some key points, which was the iMac, Mac OS 10, iPod, and going to Intel.
I noticed that iPhone thing never going to take off.
nope, not at all.
Never.
Let's see.
And yeah, even the Intel thing, but that only lasted what, maybe 15 years? It's just a flash in the pan. I mean, come on.
It didn't work out, did it? I had to finally abandon that thing. Anyway, fun pictures from way back when. I don't know if they're gonna. I don't know if this little expo thing is gonna come back or not.
I think it's
died
another
out
one
with
of those things that
COVID.
COVID kind of killed. Yeah.
Maybe it'll come back. Anyway, we also had fun presenting at those things. All right. Well, Ron.
Yeah, thank you again for having us on, because it's we're super excited. We want to see. We're trying to get the word out as much as we can, because I want to see all the neat stuff that people are going to do.
All right, Ron, what is the little red computer behind your shoulder?
That is, I keep needing to take that outside. That's a pumpkin colored Macintosh. It's not lit up right now, but it has like a little whimsical Macintosh face on it. So
very nice.
You take it. I mean, this is the time of year. I need to take it outside and light it up at night, but I haven't done it yet. I'll do that like a couple days before Halloween. So in case it walks off, it'll be no big loss.
All right. Well, we're gonna play us out here. Thanks everybody in the chat.
Thanks everyone. It was a big group tonight. Thank you all for showing up.
Music. And we'll
Thanks for listening to the RetroMacCast with James and John. Email listener comments and questions to retromaccast@gmail.com or post comments on our website at www.retromaccast.com.